We're now seeing the personalization of pretty much everything. Internet use, music, how you listen to music, and ultimately even war is getting personalized in the form of terrorism. We're seeing that these personalization trends are destroying the political parties, which, okay, like all things, adapt or die. However, it's how the parties are adapting that is the cause of concern. They're doing one of two things. They're either trying to appease social groups that are aligned within a narrow band of their party platform, or they're creating ways to capitalize on the social stir to win an election. The problem is that none of this has actually anything to do with governing, and that would be fine in a regular system. However, social causes and organizations are not designed to actually govern. They're designed to win over people to their cause, at pretty much any cost. This is why PETA, in a cost-benefit analysis, has no problem dumping paint on people. They're not designed to be nuanced, and unfortunately, governance, particularly democratic governance, is everything that is nuanced. Groups used to push their own agenda in a very limited way. But now these people are actually running the system. And very little actually gets done in democracy without a deal being struck. However, social movement groups, by their very nature, are unwilling to compromise because at their core identity is the victory of their issue. PETA does not want most animals saved. They want all animals saved. Tea Partiers do not want most taxes reduced. They want all taxes reduced. They want victory, and they are actually backed up by two things. The political parties, who have been reduced to essentially the Nora Desmond position of used to be, the biggest name in Hollywood, and now are essentially reduced to squalor, and media personalities that look to social groups and social movements to get bigger and badder ratings all the time. Now, they should be responsible with that frankly awesome power. However, what is happening is that now they are in a self-feeding cycle with their allied commentators. Rush Limbaugh, Rachel Maddow, Keith Olbermann, Mr. Beck. They only serve to fuel the fire and reinforce their clients' group belief that they are right and everybody else that doesn't agree with them 100% is evil, wrong, or evilly wrong. This has led to some really entertaining incidents, but I think the larger question is that when the political climate has gotten so toxic that in order to survive, actual policy-making decisions are being pushed aside. For instance, I looked on in horror as a senator, a gentleman who was elected by millions of my fellow Americans, single-handedly blocked a vote to give, or at least extend, unemployment benefits to people who are currently unemployed. Now, about 1 in 10 people is actually out of work. The federal numbers are actually much better than that. But the reason the federal numbers are better than that is that the federal numbers do not actually reflect how many people are really out of work. It reflects how many people have currently applied for unemployment. That does not take into account people who are small business owners. It does not take into account people who have had their benefits run out. It actually only extends to people who apply for unemployment. And this guy just said to millions of people, no, you're not getting an extension on your unemployment because I need to prove, quote unquote, a point. Now, his point was on the federal deficit. Something that is near and dear to my heart is controlling of spending. However, not at the expense of essentially taking the food out of the mouths of millions of citizens and their families. That is wrong. And these people actually applauded this man's decision. Why? because it was having to do with their cause. Not anything else having to do with the good of the country or the good of their fellow man, but their cause. Now, I really, 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 really hope that some on all sides of the social movement groups understand when I say to all of them, grow the fuck up. Do not get me wrong. I am all for political opposition. I'm all for loyal opposition. I do not agree with a lot of President Obama's policies, but he won. He gets to set the agenda. Informing people on the consequences of his policies is fine. Getting together to demonstrate, to try and draw interest to your cause is fine. Asking representatives not to support his policies is fine. If the representative doesn't do that, then kick him out of office the next cycle. That's fine. What is not fine is shutting down all decision-making within a political body simply to prove a point about your cause. I may not agree with President Obama's policies, but I recognize and highly recommend that people, rather than trying to just simply shut down his side or his opinions, actually negotiates out a solution. Simply put, no side should ever walk away in a democracy happy. Democracy is by its very definition a way of negotiating out decisions for the greater good. While I do not support his policies, he has the right to make them, and his opponents have the right to try and stop them. But grinding government to a dead standstill is simply not only not practical, it's actually silly, childish, and not loyal to the high office that you have been put in. And the people who support you in those decisions are frankly being irresponsible. Groups, for instance, like Code Pink, that had decided to protest the Iraq War by, well, trying to actually disrupt political meetings, or actually governance meetings, actually more appropriately, is, what does that prove? Other than the fact that you're an asshole. I mean, how does that actually get your point across? When you have groups that actually try and disrupt things, such as the G8 meeting, the meetings of the World Bank, because nothing says helping the third world nation like starting fires and looting in first world ones. And then the largest group you'd have to say is, well, the largest, most recent group are the Tea Parties. Oh boy. Okay. I agree that taxes and the budget is something that needs to be addressed. However, I would have to venture to say that only 1 in 10 Tea Party aficionados, gatherers, rioters, whatever you want to call them, is actually protesting what they say they are protesting. Most seem just to protest in general opposition to President Obama's administration. Well, Jesus Christ, you lost. We lost. I was one of those people who did not vote for Obama. We lost. We had a terrible candidate. We had a terrible vice presidential candidate. I know a lot of people don't want to hear that. She sucked.